Thank you everybody for joining our webinar today. As you know, we are going to be talking about WeChat Work. We have a great presentation outlined for you today. I hope you really enjoy it. We also have inside the webinar the ability for you to ask questions. So feel free to chat us your questions and we can address them at the end of the presentation. We'll go ahead and get started. Like I said, we will be talking about WeChat Work and how to build your ecosystem through WeChat Work. What we're going to be talking about today are a few items. So we're going to be going over the WeChat Work, just a quick overview of the basic features and functionality that is available out of the box. We'll also be displaying to you how to create your WeChat Work ecosystem by combining different business functions and leveraging them across different departments. And we'll also go over the implementation framework. So after you have an idea of what WeChat Work is, have some case studies of how you can leverage WeChat Work, then what do you do next and how you implement. So without further ado, I would like to introduce the speakers for today. My name is Nisha. I am the Strategy and Consulting Manager at ITC. I have been in the industry for about 10 years, and I moved over to Shanghai with my dog and my two little girls about 2 years ago, and I've loved it ever since. I'll pass it on to Flo.
Thank you, Nisha. So my name is Florian. I'm project director here for IT Consolidate, and my job is to making sure that the promises we are making to clients are fulfilled, working 100% with the production department. I've been spending the past 10 years in the digital industry, both in Europe and in China. And today I'm going to be talking about implementation of this WeChat Work in your company.
Hey, I'm Chang. I'm the founder and CEO of JINGDigital. Been here for 13 years. Came first to do websites, and then about 5 years ago started doing WeChat, doing a social CRM, a marketing automation platform called JINGSocial. We now work with about over 100 brands, a lot of luxury, retail, and one topic that's always on the top of their mind is, of course, online to offline retail operations and how do we do digital transformation. And so that topic's been important for us a while, but WeChat Work has really accelerated that conversation with brands because over particularly last March when it opened up the ability for us to connect WeChat Work with WeChat, we focused on that much more, and we've invested in a new tool called JING Sales. And so also we've become a Tencent WeChat Work ISV, a independent software vendor. And so I'm going to share with you today some of what we've been doing with some of these brands.
Thank you, Flo and Aaron. We'll continue with our presentation. So WeChat Work, I would like to give you a quick overview of what WeChat Work is. So WeChat Work was started about in 2016. As you all know, probably have been using WeChat. WeChat Work has been leveraged by a lot of companies within China, a lot of big companies within China, and we'll see some reasons why it's successful. So what is the main difference between WeChat versus WeChat Work? Well, WeChat inherently was started off as a communication tool. So you were able to message back and forth, you were able to share ideas, you were able to share images, videos, and share your life pretty much digitally. And so WeChat Work has taken that a little bit further. You still have the capabilities that you have within WeChat, but WeChat Work allows you to streamline your business communication and management. So let's take a look at the user interface. As you can see, it's very similar to WeChat with a few differences. So the first thing that kind of pops out is the blue UI that's on top, which is a little bit different than the green in WeChat. But you still have the ability to have messages, so you can still chat back and forth with all of your contacts. And then on the second screenshot, you can see that you have content management. So within here, you have all of your contacts, including your external contacts, as well as your internal contacts that are there within the company. Then you have a section for your workspace. So what this is it's very similar to what you can think of as like different apps and features that are available. So you have approvals, you have the ability to punch in, punch out, you have the ability to do announcements. You have a file disk space that's also there. So I know it's really annoying a lot of times in WeChat whenever people send you images or files. If you don't open it up right away, in a few days it's gone. With WeChat Work, actually, you can save all of this information, all of these documents, and they'll be available for you as well as anybody who has access into the same file disk folder as you. Additionally, you have a space for your profile. The cool thing here is that you have, instead of just a regular profile, you have the ability to have more of a business look to it by having a business card, and people can actually scan the business card, and then you can also have some to-do lists, some favorites, etc. So next up, like I was saying, WeChat Work is, of course, a very powerful communication tool, and you can have your internal communications directly onto WeChat Work. So what you see here is a conversation happening back and forth between two people on WeChat Work, and you also have the ability, if you're having conference calls, if you want to present something, you can have group chats, and you can present whatever you would like to all of the people inside that group. Additionally, you have some other key features here. One of them is a to-do list, and the to-do list, you can add things inside there, and it'll appear in your section called to-do. You can also have votes and surveys, so you can easily and seamlessly, if you have a lot of people in the organization, you can request whether or not they would like to do a survey or a vote, and you can send this out, and people can give you the answers, and you have all of that in one spot. So here we have contact management. So one thing that I would like to point out is inside contact management, everything is sectioned into folders. So as you can see here, within your organization, if you have a finance team, if you have an HR team, if you have a marketing team, each of them, you can categorize all those people inside these folders. And the people inside these folders, the admin can assign what kinds of permissions these people have. So if there's some sensitive material or sensitive items that is going to be talked about in the HR group, then the other groups won't have any access to it. Additionally, you can see up top there is a space for external contacts. So this is any of the contacts that you have added inside that are outside of your organization. Additionally, the admin can set the status, they can edit members, they can delete members. So the admin has full control of the permissions and accessibility of WeChat Work. So here you can see group management. So admins have the ability to manage groups, and they also have the ability to control the types of things that are happening inside the group. So for example, you see here that there are certain words that you can have that you might not want people to be using. So you can ban those words, and inside that group, those particular words will be banned. So one of the great things about WeChat Work is the interoperability that you have between WeChat and WeChat Work. What this means is that there's a very seamless connection between both of these platforms. They're both owned by Tencent, and what you can actually have is a person that's on WeChat, talking on WeChat and communicating with somebody that's on WeChat Work. The good thing about this is that WeChat Work highly leverages the power of user behavior. So people are very familiar with using WeChat. People are very familiar with doing their work on WeChat as well as their personal life on WeChat. So this way, by incorporating WeChat Work as a tool, you can better control the types of contacts, the types of communications that are happening right within the WeChat Work system. So there's a better separation of work and life. I'll have Aaron take over the next portion about the external communications.
Yeah, as I mentioned, and Nisha was mentioning here, is that one of the big kind of killer apps that WeChat Work released, like I mentioned back in March of last year, that really changed the game was that they opened up the ability for us to connect directly from WeChat Work seamlessly into WeChat, personal WeChat, so that our internal team can talk to external customers. That really made it much, much more powerful and made brands much more interested in it because fundamentally we're all using WeChat already for our work, but now we can make it sort of official, kind of like an official email address for our company email address versus our personal email address. They also, what's nice is that the tool by default provides us some nice external communications or external contact tools. They have a couple things here. They give you a card so that you can scan and connect with people. They also have group send and track some statistics for how many new customers that you've added. So the process looks like this, how this works to connect the two together. And this example here is a customer who I've already connected on WeChat, because this is the real life case, is most salespeople already have many and most of their customers already in WeChat. But for reasons, for instance, that they want to be able to let them more easily share information or materials with them, then they're going to ask them to, hey, would you mind scanning a QR code and follow my WeChat Work? And so then they can take their QR code from the profile, send it to the user, send it to their customer, and the customer can just, long press that QR code, they'll scan it, they add each other just like in the normal process with WeChat, and then you can see on the far right, it's kind of small here, but over in this area here, you can see that I've now been added as a contact into this customer's list, the only difference being this little orange @ and this is the company name. So this shows them that this contact here is actually a WeChat Work contact. Once the chatting process, once you're ready, then once you're connected, the chatting is pretty much just the same as WeChat. As we mentioned before, in the contact list, they've kind of given us a nice folder here of all my customers. So this is one of the Enchiren, and then I can click through and then find the customer, or in the message column here, then I can just directly chat with them. The point about the power of these external communications to emphasize is that for brands, probably one of the key element of this is that understanding and being able to control and monitor salespeople's contacts with external users. Because formerly it was all in personal WeChat and they had no visibility into who the salesperson was talking to, and when they left, they took the whole contact list with them. So now with using WeChat Work, they can understand better who's the sales team is connecting with, and then if the salesperson leaves, we can then reassign these customers to other people. A couple of features we'll point out really quickly from an admin perspective that WeChat Work provides is reassigning customers, like we just mentioned. There's a tab here. I can go in, someone leaves, I basically disable that salesperson, and then those contacts then can be reassigned to another contact. There are some issues with transitioning customers to another sales team or another salesperson in terms of the number of customers who will actually accept that transition. But overall, it's a good feature to have. Another thing that they provide is the ability for sales to add tags to customers. In addition, they have something called company tags. So company tags we can provide a library of tags directly to the sales team so that they're using sort of standardized tagging of their customers. And then this is useful in a couple of ways. It's useful for us for data capture to understand, for the marketing team, for the brand to understand who the customer is. And then it's also very useful because then it allows the sales team to then search by these tags to identify users, and then also to group send, so they can use these tags to send out the same message to multiple customers. The permissions, of course, are configurable. We can decide who can connect with external contacts and who can't. And then there's also some nice security features of being able to watermark and prevent screen captures of some of the pages. So that's sort of the external contact piece of it. And the next one we're going to talk about, I think Nisha's going to talk about more, is the workspace.
All right, so we saw this screenshot earlier on in the presentation. There are a lot of out-of-the-box features that you can already leverage within WeChat Work. One of them being the punch-in, punch-out feature. So if you have salespeople or employees that are continuously coming in and out of the office, It's very easy for them to just punch in and punch out directly through WeChat Work, which makes their lives a little bit easier. There's also the ability to have approvals, so you can have for employees that are applying for leaves or vacation, anything like that, you can do it directly within the system. Additionally, there are a lot of ready-made reports that are available, and you also have the ability to send company-wide announcements. So if you have, let's just say, an all-hands meeting, if you have a company of, let's just say, 500 people, that's a lot of people that are going to be receiving this. You can leverage this feature to send a company-wide announcement. You have a file disk space, and there is a limit to the number of the file disk that's available, but you can easily pay a little bit more and get additional file space added on for your company. And then you have some forums. You also have an enterprise mailbox, email box that you can connect to. So for example, for our company, I have my company Gmail box connected onto my WeChat Work, which works pretty seamlessly, so I can see all of my emails coming in and send emails out. And then the cool thing here is that you have third-party apps. So WeChat Work, when you click the third-party apps, you can see all of the apps that have been publicly available for anybody to just use. So it's more of just like an app store and you can pick and choose which apps would work best for you and add them onto your WeChat Workspace. So let's take a look at this a little bit deeper. So this is what a third-party app screen looks like. So you have a lot of different categories here. You have a CRM category, you have an HR category, you have a training category. So if there are some instances where you can actually leverage some of these these third-party apps, you can go inside and check each category and see whether or not these apps will work better for you. So just to highlight and summarize what we talked about, there's a lot of benefits for out-of-the-box WeChat Work features. Of course, it provides a great way to acquire and maintain your relationship with your customers. There's great interoperability between WeChat Work and WeChat, so you can seamlessly go from one platform to another without the end user really knowing, except for the fact that they'll know that you're coming in from WeChat Work, but they can still talk to you from their WeChat to your WeChat Work. You can also communicate and manage your team very effectively, and you have the ability to leverage the third-party apps that are available within the WeChat Work ecosystem. So now I'll pass it over to Flo to talk about how you can actually create your WeChat Work ecosystem.
Thanks, Nisha. So yeah, you will see that WeChat Work out of the box has hundreds and hundreds of features already. But the thing is, when you are looking from a bigger point of view, like we have seen Fortune 500 companies are using also WeChat Work, and they already have an ecosystem in place. So this means WeChat Work has to be integrated into something bigger than just WeChat Work. So there are multiple ways of integrating WeChat Work into your existing ecosystem. And two main ways that we can split them into two main categories. The first one are what we call user-facing components. It's not a WeChat or WeChat Work naming convention. It's one that we made for this presentation. And the second one is API connections. I will give a bit of details of both of them, but what we have to remember is we get some value out of these tools by using all of them at the same time and leveraging on the capabilities of each of them. So if you are looking at the user-facing components, they are again divided into two categories. The first one are applications, which are very, very similar to official accounts in the regular WeChat. And the second one is mini programs, which are exactly the same thing as mini programs in the regular WeChat. They are very, very close to each other. If you are looking at how they look in your WeChat Work, they are just stacked on top of each other. They can even be mixed depending on the permissions that are given. So ultimately, it's more a question of how you want them to be accessible within your team. Do you want them to be accessible only internally, available also outside? So it's a question of permissions, but ultimately these are tools you can access from WeChat Work, and depending on the permissions, you can share also outside of your WeChat Work workspace. And what you can do with this is you can have all the features that are linked with actions requiring a user to do something, to press a button, to click, to input some text. So all of these tasks, you can have them that are taken care of with some user-facing components. And this means we will have a lot of examples afterwards, but this means you can do pretty much anything you want. But it's going to bring just one limitation that is lifted by the API connections, is that it's manual work, while API connections are jobs that are running in background in order to smoothen the connection between systems. So earlier we have talked about tagging, for instance, of your users. Then API connections can help on automating this tagging of the user without asking your salesperson to click, click, click and do the tagging every time for every action done by your customers. So leveraging on the APIs means that you can consolidate some data from one system to another. You can share some data automatically from one to another. You can automate also the transmission of one message from one department to another. So it's extremely powerful, and doesn't require any effort from any of the team members. It's some coding that is happening in the backend. And that's the moment that where we will get into the details of how it can be done across the different departments, because we believe any department within a company can benefit of WeChat Work, whether it's finance, it's sales, it's HR department, security, operations. All of the department can benefit of it. And we will start first with retails, and for this, it's going to be Aaron that will be explaining you how you can use WeChat Work to boost your sales.
Okay. So retail sales, like I was talking about, I'm going to share with you 3 key cases that we've seen a lot of interest in. The first one is customer acquisition. So how do I connect with my customer, get new leads or prospects? So this is both a retail actually and also B2B case. The second one, social selling, so selling online, and enabling your salespeople to not just sell offline in the store, but also to recommend products and to sell online through your e-commerce or your e-commerce mini program. The third one is clienteling. So this is particularly for luxury, very high value or high lifetime value type brands. They want to give their salespeople a lot of information about the customer so they can provide the best experience. So in all 3 of these cases, WeChat Work provides some good opportunities to really improve and address those strategies. So let's start with customer acquisition. So customer acquisition, if it boils down to the pain point here, there's 3 of them right now, is that your sales team is already acquiring customers in WeChat, but it's on their personal account, so it's not official. It doesn't look very official. And again, the second pain point is that what we mentioned before is the transition and the ability for us to control, the brand to control what's happening. So we lose a sense of control and we can't actually track and understand what's going on with them, with the sales team. So to address that pain point, we'll show you what a solution for that can look like. It uses a QR code, primarily. So this is very similar to WeChat. So the same thing when we share our QR code or someone scans our QR code to connect with us. It's the same thing, except now there's 2 options for using a QR code. There's the QR code that's in my profile. And recently, WeChat Work opened up a new API to create what they call Contact Us QR codes. And the advantage of this QR code type is that it skips the salesperson doesn't need to accept the contact. The contact needs to, of course, voluntarily accept the salesperson after they scan it, but once that's done, that contact is going to, if we see here in this third slide, once the customer accepts them, in the third slide, that contact will be immediately go into our contact list into our messages column, so that I can immediately start chatting with them. So I've acquired them. What happens in the background is for acquisition. Then I can track, and as a brand, I can report on how many fans this salesperson has acquired. and I can give them credit for that. Another great thing about the Contact Us QR codes is that you can create multiple ones. You can add attributes to them so you can understand what channel they are. So actually the salesperson can be using multiple QR codes depending on perhaps an event or just their normal day-to-day business. Another value that we can provide through this integration, as Florian mentioned, it integrates a series of APIs together with your other systems. And then we can give them a much richer customer profile. So this is a profile that goes beyond the default tool, the profile in WeChat Work, and we can then extend in other behavioral and CRM information about who this customer is. So we'll talk more about that in the clienteling section, where that becomes the key focus. So this is the acquisition. So customer acquisition, we're seeing a lot of interest in this. The next strategy is around social selling. So this is probably for retail the biggest one because the pain points are two. Number one is that actually the sales team is already selling online through personal WeChat. It's just we have no visibility into it. And again, it's not very official. And it's sort of a pain for the retail team because they have to call the Kuaidi themselves, get it in here, ship it out, and any returns have to be managed by themselves. The second piece about it is from a brand perspective, it's really an opportunity more than a pain point, is that when we enable all of our sales team, and not just the sales team actually, our entire team, both front in customer facing and non-customer facing to sell, we can enable our whole team to do 24/7 selling actually. Is that at any time when a customer has a need, we can help them, talk to them, and then suggest the product to get them sold. What we're seeing with a lot of brands is that actually what happens, particularly for in luxury, is that they'll be, most of their stores are congregated in first and second tier cities, but actually there's a lot of luxury consumers, first, second, third, fourth, fifth tier cities. So they're traveling, they come to a first tier city, they make a connection with the salesperson, they haven't decided, they go home, you want to complete the sales. So this is one of the key use cases that we're seeing that is happening with this strategy. So what it actually looks like, the step-by-step is this, is that the salesperson will, through the application, through the workspace, they can access and get into the e-commerce platform, which has had some code added to it so it can track the salesperson when they share it. So this is a mini program. They share it, a mini program card, this is their second slide, their second screen, with their customer, and then the customer can click on this, go back into the mini program, and then make a purchase, or they'll browse and see what else is there. The great thing about this, once you've connected and integrated, and not just WeChat Work, but your EC and also your official account, is that you can track all these behaviors. So the salesperson then gets visibility into understanding, oh, what did my customer, what were they actually really interested in? They might have started out on this suit, but ended up actually really being interested in ties. So now the salesperson can see all that and then can respond and update, recommend other products. So the last two screens here are showing the great thing that happens with one of the things that we really focus on is marketing team, sales team collaboration. Before, they were really very, very separate, siloed departments. And what we're trying to do is help the marketing team make the sales team more efficient and let the sales team understand the value that the marketing team is driven. So we have this first screen here, which is hot prospects. What that means is that through all those channels we just mentioned that you can track, you can then see what customer is interested in what. So the case is this, is the marketing team activates the customer through content marketing, through a campaign. The customer goes through our track channels, whether it's e-commerce or the official account. Then we can score, track them, understand who's really hot, and that information now is clearly available and visible to the salesperson. So then they can see which of their customers has activated, and they can directly one-to-one follow up and close that sale, and then track the sale and be credited and get commission on that sale. So that's social selling. Our last case is clienteling. So pain points here are really around efficiency. Right now what's happening is a lot of clienteling solutions are not based inside of WeChat, but that's the main communication channel here in China. So they have to switch between apps, and so it makes it not very efficient. The second piece is control. Again, in clienteling, we want to know what our sales team is doing. So how does WeChat Work help solve this issue? It does a couple of things. On the left-hand side here, I'm chatting, say, the case here is a customer contacts me. I've already connected with them. Last time I talked to them might have been 3 months ago. I don't actually remember who this customer is. But now I can click through, see their full CRM profile. So the clienteling solution pulls in data from the CRM, from e-commerce. I can see a 360-degree view of this customer, and I can see notes I made maybe a while ago or other sales team members made. And I can see, oh, okay, I know who he is. I know his size. I know his color preference. I know his lifestyle. All right, I can answer the question, and then I can take it a step farther by maybe recommending other products or suggest he comes into the store. We can view some of the new campaign or the new season's products. On the right-hand side here is other efficiency tools. Tasks. So this is a classic case. Salespeople are very busy. They have a lot of contacts. They don't know who to focus on. We can create tasks for them, let them know, okay, it's Florian's birthday today. Reach out to him, say hi, and things like this. And then there's a feature, what I mentioned before, is group chat. By automatically adding tags to these customers, I can just select the right tags, I get the groups, I can group send, I can make it easier and more efficient for me to connect with actually multiple customers all at the same time. WeChat Work has taken this a step farther by introducing a second group chat API called Enterprise Group Chat. What this means is the marketing team can actually pre-prepare the segments and the messages and the content for the sales team person in advance. And so the salesperson just gets a task, basically a message saying, hey, here's all of your birthday customers, here's the message we want you to send, we suggest that you send, here's who we suggest you send it to. They click one button, it goes out to all those people. So we think that's actually a major killer app because it makes the salesperson be able to engage, create a great experience for their customers and do it efficiently. So these are just 3. There's actually many more in retail, but these can kind of get you started in understanding what's possible. Next, we're going to talk about finance.
Thank you, Aaron. So yeah, we have set up the hype, and now I'm talking about finance. I think it's gonna be a bit complicated. Please stay here. It's gonna be fun as well. Talking about finance, we can do cool stuff with WeChat Work here as well, in terms of managing the account receivable in a company when we are more into B2B kind of work, managing e-invoices. I'm giving you just one example of how a B2B company most of the time is managing their account receivable. It's a one-to-one communication where the finance will go and check with the project management and will be asking, how can I invoice? And then receive a yes, a no, then do the same question to the persons that are directly in contact with the client, then with the sales, then check this with the ERP. It's a lot of point-to-point communication that are ended up to waste a lot of energy on a critical topic for companies making B2B business. And we believe on this topic, for instance, WeChat Work can heavily be leveraged, because the idea here is having, through APIs and chatbots, the opportunity for everybody to just be involved when it's needed. So finance department would broadcast a question that is, oh, I have all these projects and all these payments I would like at some point to collect. And this will send the reminders to the right persons every time it's needed. So for instance, on a weekly basis, you get a reminder as project manager, where are you? Did you reach a milestone? And if you say, yes, I reached this milestone on that project, then this will pop up a question for the person that is client-facing, the account manager. Are we in a situation where the client has been informed and can we invoice? Yes, I can answer yes on this chatbot. Then it circulates back to the salesperson about the amount to be invoiced to the client and goes back to finance. The idea is that instead of having everybody to chat one by one to each other, it's a chatbot that will do triage and at the end inform the ERP of where we are. So that can be an excellent tool and make the life of everybody much, much nicer. And I'm continuing with some complicated topics, security. On this one, of course, WeChat Work is coming out of the box with an SSO and can have a lot of administration and permissions management. So this means that with this SSO stands for single sign-on. The idea is that in your company, you may have already a CRM, some point of sale, some payroll software, internal systems, name as you want. I'm sure you have hundreds of them. And the SSO is here to ease the efforts of creating an ID and a password for each of the systems and manage the permissions every time somebody is changing positions within the organization or every time somebody is onboarding or offboarding. The idea is that you have one single login that is your WeChat Work ID that is used, and you scan the QR code to access the CRM, to access point of sale, all of them with the correct permissions. And you have a backend from where you can control the permissions that are associated to all of them. So one sales team member can start having a little access to the CRM, only to part of the customer base he's allowed to see. And then he's reaching a point where he's sales manager, and he will have access to reporting and so on. So that can be extremely interesting. And through APIs connection, because we have the organization chart that is already embedded within WeChat Work, so through API connection, we can automate this change of permissions smoothly and ease the pain of all the IT departments that are setting up the permissions for all team members, for all tools, every time there is a change. We can see also some interesting benefits to be taken from the HR department. And on multiple aspects, it can be about the training, the recruitment, and the employees management on a daily basis. What we want to talk about today is two cases. The first one is about recruitment process. At the moment, the recruitment process is looking a bit like this. You have the HR department and internal teams that will communicate with potential candidates and talents through many different channels. You can get in contact with the HR department of a company through LinkedIn, through emails, through a conference where you will meet a hiring team member, and this means that you will have a lot of back and forth communication and handover process during the onboarding process. In internal team is extremely painful. Most of the time, you have a lot of information that get lost in the process. While we believe that if you enable a WeChat mini program that is having all the features you want for the your hiring needs, then we can ease the pain a lot. So the idea would be that you have the QR code of this mini program that is available in many different locations and is connecting one of your HR team members with potential candidates through WeChat Work. Then they would discuss through WeChat Work and WeChat for the candidate about the position. At some point, we can even decide to reallocate. You were scheduled to go in as a project manager in one team, but actually the position has been fulfilled. We believe you are still a great talent, so you can be project manager in this other team that also have an open position. At this moment, the new line manager would get the whole history of what happened until that point and could say and make an educated decision based on the feedbacks of all the team members that participated on the onboarding process. So ultimately, the idea is that instead of having 3, 5, 10 different channels, you switch to one and half one at the end when you are actually signing the contract together with the client, the candidate. And then there is a second topic that I'm sure everybody is feeling the pain when they are meeting and facing clients. It's about reimbursement of your expenses. So as a team member, you go out and you meet some clients, you have lunch, you take the fapiao at the end, you take the fapiao of the Didi, of the taxi, and then you pile those up on your desk until a moment there are so many of them that you will spend the whole afternoon filling in some spreadsheets, your ERP, your payroll system, all of them probably dated for more than 3 months. Some are getting lost in the process, and then you get the approval. It's extremely complicated and time-consuming for any team member that is going out a lot. What we believe here is that a chatbot within WeChat Work could ease the life of all people that needs to get reimbursed some expenses. So the idea is same as before. As a salesperson, you go out on a lunch with a client, and on your way back on the taxi, the way to get the reimbursement is you take the FAPIAO you have, you take a picture of it, send it to a chatbot. This chatbot will recognize you because it's you using your WeChat Work, will send this request for reimbursement of an expense to the payroll service, payroll system, then automatically send the question to your line manager through WeChat Work also for the approval. Approval is given on WeChat Work. It goes back to you on the chatbot saying, hey, you've got your expense that has been approved. Just remember to put the physical FAPIAO in this letterbox and you are good to go. So in here, what's extremely interesting is that in terms of accuracy of the data, by making those small painful processes simpler, then you get much better accuracy of data, and you don't have this lag that we are seeing always to close our monthly accounts, our monthly P&Ls, and so on. So that can be extremely interesting, just simple tasks. And for operations, so operations is just daily management of the team. And one thing we are doing here at ITC is being as aligned as possible by having some daily stand-ups we are doing. But the thing is, as the team is growing, what we have done is the natural thing is splitting the team into independent ones that are some form of business units, reporting to a managers, and those managers report to the COO. The thing is, when Nisha, for instance, that is not part of my team, is having a dependency together with me, then we have to go one step above, then one step above, and so on. So at some point, we realize that we are making some silos and we are preventing the team to continue work together. Then what we think could be interesting here is maintaining those stand-ups, but making them online using a chatbot again. This chatbot on a daily basis will come to you and ask you the 3 questions that we are asking in our stand-ups, which are, hey, what was your focus yesterday? What will you do today? And what is standing on your way? What are the dependencies that prevents you to achieve your success? And for instance, my answers could have been yesterday, I've been preparing for this webinar we are having today together with Nisha. And today I'm going to execute this one. And what is standing on my way is that potentially Nisha would be late. And then therefore the chatbot will recognize that I tagged Nisha and send her a message to tell, hey Nisha, you have been mentioned on this. And then she knows I'm having a dependency towards her. Then this means in 5 minutes we are able to communicate with all the teams, whether they are part of our squad or they are part of another one. And of course, because all of this is through a centralized tool, we can do some tracking, some analysis, and make some adjustments at a company-wide level very, very quickly. So these are some ideas. We wanted to select just a few ones that are impactful. And then if you have some questions, you can go directly on the chat. But now the topic we will cover is how do we make this idea a reality and we completely implement WeChat Work. And for this, it's going to be Nisha that will be presenting it to you.
All right, thank you, Flo. So we learned so far in the presentation what WeChat Work is. We learned some out-of-the-box capabilities and features that are available on WeChat Work. We also learned how we can create a WeChat Work ecosystem and how different departments can leverage WeChat Work as well as work together within the WeChat Work ecosystem. So now that we have all of this information under our belts, What next? So how do you go about determining whether WeChat Work is the right approach for your company? How do you know whether this is the right step, how this should be implemented? There are probably a bunch of questions that you're thinking, and we've come up with a 6-step guide to better tailor your decision-making process. So in the end, WeChat Work is just a tool, and a tool is only as good as the people that are using it. So we want to make sure that we harness the way that the Chinese users work and leverage WeChat Work, because a lot of people are already used to using WeChat. And so coming onto WeChat Work would be a very seamless step for them. So how do we do this? Well, first of all, what you can do is you can start looking at your internal organization and start mapping out your internal processes. You can see how everybody, what types of processes everybody is doing, what are their business needs, what are their goals, both long-term and short-term. And once you have all of that, you can have that maybe on a spreadsheet. You have a good map of what your internal processes and operations look like. Then what you can do is you can map that out with the types of tools that you're using for your processes and operations. So you can determine, okay, for internal communication, we're using WeChat, or for internal communication, we're using Slack, and then etc. So for the finance team, what they're using, for the marketing team, what they're using, and for all the other teams, how they're using specific tools inside the organization. So after this, we can determine where the gap is. We know where our current what our current operations look like. We know the tools that we're using for our current operations. And so we can see whether or not there's a gap, and we can see whether or not WeChat Work can fulfill this gap. After that, we would work on measuring all of the results. After that, we would choose an approach. So once we have done the gap analysis, we would determine how we want to conduct the pilot. So a pilot basically is something that you can do step by step, so you don't have to roll out the whole solution once. You can actually do this by tool or department. What I mean is you can determine whether or not for all of your internal communications you want to move off of Slack or different chat tools and move directly onto WeChat Work, or you can determine whether you want to do this by department. So at ITC, what we decided was that we would start using WeChat Work as our internal communication tool for the marketing team and the strategy and consulting team. So once you run your pilot, then you start measuring all of your results. So once you've measured your results, you will see how the WeChat Work tool has functioned inside the pilot, and then you can present them to your entire team. And once you've done that, then you can make the decision whether or not WeChat Work is the right step, and then you can decide it out, communicate it out, and execute it out. And of course, training is a big part of this, making sure that people know how to use the tool, how they're going to be leveraging the tool in their daily operations. And having that concrete is a good way to make sure that everybody's lives are a little bit easier. So key takeaways, WeChat Work I know has been around for a couple years now. Of course, we know that it's more than a communication tool. It can help bring all of your business operations together within one ecosystem. We also saw how you can leverage out-of-the-box features, but there's also much more that you can do inside WeChat Work based on the third-party apps that are available, as well as customized apps that you can create yourself. We can also see that WeChat Work can become more of a data hub for all of your contacts, for all of the interactions that you have with all of your internal employees as well as your external contacts. And based on this, you can decide how you want to leverage WeChat Work and how you should go about implementing WeChat Work through our step-by-step guide. So we hope you enjoy this presentation. The last part of our webinar is the Q&A session. So we will go over all of the questions that were there inside the chat, and we will address them one by one. Thank you very much. We really hope that you enjoyed this, and we'll open it up for Q&A.
Okay. So do you want me to read the questions for you?
Sure.
So there is the first one that seems that there is a lot of great features, but how long does it take to implement them? I guess you know it, Nisha?
Yeah, so I can take a stab at it. So I hate to say it, but it kind of depends. It depends on whether they're out of the box features. If they're out of the box features, very easy implementation. It's just a click and you can add them in. However, if it's more customized, if it's something that's not out of the box, it will take a little bit longer. It may require more development or more coding or more API integrations to be able to do this. So unfortunately, it's not a hard and fast answer. It really depends on what types of features you want to implement, and based off of that, how much time it will take.
Yep. So I guess from my point of view, I would say that it starts from a click, but then you have all the change of habits to be conducted. It can be company-wide, so it can be a very, very time-consuming and effort-consuming effort. The idea is that you have to look at the long-term goal and how to reach it. So that was the first question. And then we have a second one that is, will WeChat work out for organizations outside of China? I guess you have it as well, Nisha.
Sure. So unfortunately, WeChat Work, if you want to use this as an internal tool, it really, the benefit of WeChat Work is within China. You can download WeChat Work outside of China, but really if you want to use it for internal operations, the best is to do it within China.
Any point you want to add, Aaron?
No, I mean, another issue is that the authentication process for users outside of China is really difficult because it's actually, WeChat Work is real name registration. So in China, you have to have either your 身份证, your identity card, or you need to have your bank account in order to even access it.
Yep. Then third question is there an API documentation available from Tencent? So the answer is yes, there are some documentation. There is a lot of documentation existing. The thing, however, is that we have on such a tool, it's evolving quite fast. Some new tools are arriving. So most of the documentation will be in Chinese. And some part of the documentation can get outdated from time to time. So it requires some effort, but you have some documentation, yes. And then I have, how can we use WeChat Work as a customer support tool? For instance, tracking conversations, connecting CRM to WeChat Work, and so on. And I guess this one is definitely something for you, Aaron.
Yeah, so that's another case that's very similar to the kind of the clienteling case is where we want to start track and understand how our customers both track and understand how our customers are engaging with our sales or customer service teams, but then also make it easier for them to converse on the right channels. So it is a little more complicated for customer service because customer service is by its very nature multi-channel, because a lot of those customer service inquiries are going to be coming in through via phone or coming in through maybe your official account or your website, and then only later through WeChat Work. So what happens is that they have a contact us. So I mentioned earlier there's the contact us card, which is the QR code. So you can create a specific QR code. And this can be made to route to a department, or it can be made to route to an individual. And so there's another way to connect to is also in a mini program or an H5 or a website. You can add in this code to have it do contact us. So it's an easy way in a mini program for customer service actually that it'll create a little button, they click on it, and then on the admin side you can select to have them connect to a department or connect to, and then be round robin, select that connection down to an individual, or connected to one specific person. So this actually is very, very powerful because Tencent WeChat Work team, they have an idea that they're pushing a lot is 全员营销. So what that means is complete team marketing or sales. So it's turning your whole team into salespeople, but in another way, it's also potentially turning your whole team into customer service reps. So that through these interfaces, actually, you can integrate a conversation that's coming in through one channel and then direct it to the right person in the right department. So you don't have to, so you can have, actually everyone could become a frontline customer service person. We've seen this approach in some hospitality brands who are doing this. Not in WeChat Work yet, but it is very possible to do that. So I think I got a little carried away with my answer here. But I think I answered your question.
Okay. I have another one that is there any particular monthly or yearly cost? You know this one.
Yeah, so similar to if you're onboarding any kind of WeChat official accounts, it's similar. You go through a verification process. It's the same idea with WeChat Work. There's a 300 RMB cost, and each year you have to get your account re-verified. There is also additional cost if you want to increase your disk space. I can't remember off the top of my head exactly how much that is, but it's not that much, depending on whether or not you want to get more disk space. So once you've onboarded onto your WeChat Work and it's up and running, you can go into a separate section and click to get more disk space added, which will probably cost you a little bit more money too.
Okay. Then we have, is WeChat Work available for companies outside of China? But I guess we answered it earlier. Then there is, when the creator, the individual creator, I guess, of WeChat Work leaves the company, can you transfer the ownership to somebody else?
Oh, the admin? I assume that's the admin user.
Yeah.
I guess.
And yes, you can transfer. There can be multiple admins.
Okay. Okay. Is there any third-party app for WeChat Work in English? So this one I can answer. There are, yes, of course, if you developed one, then it can be fully in English. So because you can make your own. The ones you will find mostly will be, of course, in Chinese. But as it's a bit of a marketplace, so you can find everything at the moment. It's basically targeting China. So it's gonna be in Chinese, but the ones that are custom made are and can be in any language you want. And I think also the ones that you are making are in English and Chinese.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I mean, actually, the JING sales app we built is just in Chinese because the sales teams are all in China.
Okay. I'm just requesting a new feature. That's
Yeah.
And then there is a question that is how ITC and JINGDigital can help to initiate the design and setup of the WeChat Work in the company. So I let both of you answer. You first, Nisha?
Yeah, sure. So we partner with Jing Social and JINGDigital very closely for a lot of our projects, and it would be very similar for WeChat Work. So for WeChat Work, what we would do is ITC is primarily helping with consulting type services. So helping get your WeChat Work set up. If there is something that's directly related to social selling, definitely we would partner up with Jing Social and then leverage the Jing Social tool. If it's something that is outside of maybe social selling and you want to do some kind of customized apps or mini programs, then ITC can definitely start figuring out what the business needs are, what the requirements are, coming up with a strategy and a roadmap of what that looks like, and then actually doing the development for it and the testing and the execution. And you can kind of go over your part.
I think you covered it. Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, we provide the software as a service, a platform. Technology, and ITC is one of our premier providers and solution consultants. So I think that having them work together, and then of course we can support on the technology pieces that make sense.
We have a follow-up question, the customer service question, which is, can WeChat Work be seamlessly integrated into a mini program to function as customer service chatbot?
You can. I mean, that's not an out-of-the-box feature. That's something you'd have to develop to connect all those pipes together. But yes, it can be done. The APIs are there.
Yeah, and then it was, what are the flows with WeChat Work as a customer-facing chat tool?
Sorry?
What are the flows with WeChat Work as a customer-facing chat tool?
Oh, okay. There's a couple. I mean, as a sales tool, the biggest one that we hear all the time is that there's no moments. So that's the number one problem. because their sales team is a lot of times doing some kind of soft selling and both selling and then understanding who their customer is by following their customers' moments. Both of these features are not available currently inside of WeChat Work. We do hear from the WeChat Work team that they are going to find a way to solve the moments issue around Chinese New Year. So we're all waiting with bated breath to see how they're going to do that. The other issue is around the connection, kind of transferring your existing contacts from personal WeChat to WeChat Work. They do provide a way to do that, but it's not totally seamless. So that provides some friction. So, I mean, what we're seeing for customer-facing applications is that you probably will not. And the reality is that there's a lot of efficiency and benefits to using WeChat Work, but there's certain cases where you will still use personal WeChat, and it makes sense to use that. So it's actually kind of similar, again, to email. You have personal email, you have your work email, and you're going to keep on using both, although increasingly the percentage is going to be much higher for work.
Okay, so we are arriving at 11 and I think there is no other questions. So first of all, thanks all for joining this webinar. We have shared the QR code of the white paper. Let's see it. Yes, you can scan this QR code to download the white paper that is attached to this webinar. Thanks a lot for your very nice questions. No other closing word on my side. Any closing word for you, Aaron?
Yeah, just thanks everyone for tuning in and listening, and thanks Nisha for nice hosting.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.